École Polytechnique is a French public institution of higher education and research in Palaiseau near Paris. Polytechnique was established in 1794 by the mathematician Gaspard Monge during the French Revolution, and became a military academy under Napoleon I in 1804. Today, the institution still runs under the supervision of the French Ministry of Defence. Initially located in the Latin Quarter of central Paris, the establishment main buildings was moved in 1976 to Palaiseau on the Saclay Plateau, southwest of Paris. A small and very elitist university, Polytechnique has engaged in partnerships to improve its international renown. It is thus a founding member of Paris.Polytechnique, a grouping of leading Paris area engineering colleges established in 2007. In 2014 it became a founding member of the Confederal University of Paris in Saclay. Among its alumni are 3 Nobel Prize winners, 1 Fields medalist, 3 presidents of France and many CEOs of French and international companies. It is currently ranked as world's 3rd best small university by Times Higher Education's World University Rankings. In the 19th century, its specific model has inspired the foundation of many similar schools throughout the world, also named Polytechnique, such as Caltech or the École Polytechnique de Montréal. History. Polytechnique has more than 200 years of tradition. 1794, the École Centrale des Travaux Publics is founded by Lazare Carnot and Gaspard Monge during the French Revolution. At the time of the National Convention, it is renamed École Polytechnique 1 year later. 1805, Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte settles the École on Montagne Sainte-Geneviève in the Quartier Latin in central Paris, as a military academy, and gives its motto Pour la patrie, les sciences et la gloire. 1814, students took part in the fights to defend Paris from the Sixth Coalition. 1830, 50 students participated in the July Revolution. 1848, students lead the French Revolution of 1848, and are an important part of the post-revolutionary process, with 1 student being part of the post-revolution government. They are given the right to wear a sword as a recognition of the role. 1914 to 1918, students are mobilized and the school building is transformed into a hospital. More than 200 students were killed during the war. 1939 to 1945, Polytechnique is moved away to Lyon in the Free Zone. More than 400 polytechnicians died for France during the Second World War. 1970, the École becomes a state-supported civilian institution under the auspice of the Ministry of Defence. 1972, women are admitted to the Polytechnique for the first time. 1976, the École moves from Paris to Palaiseau from Paris. 1985, the École starts awarding PhD degrees. 1994, celebration of the Bicentennial chaired by President François Mitterrand. 2000, a new cursus is set in place, passing to 4 years and reforming the polytechnician curriculum. 2005, the École starts delivering master's degrees. 2007, the École is a founding member of Université Paris and Paris.Polytechnique. 2015, the École is a founding member of Université Paris-Saclay. Locations. Early locations. In 1794, Polytechnique was initially hosted in the Palais Bourbon. 1 year later, it moved to Hôtel de l'Élysée, an hotel particularly in the 7th arrondissement of Paris. Montagne Sainte-Geneviève. Napoleon moved Polytechnique to the Quartier Latin in 1805 when he set the school under a military administration. The Paris's campus takes place near the Panthéon, in Descartes Street, 5. It is nicknamed Carver by the students. Palaiseau. At 15 kilometers from Paris, the campus of the École Polytechnique is a privileged setting. It offers about 164 hectares teaching facilities, student housing, food services and hospitality, and an exceptional range of sports facilities dedicated to the 4,600 people who live on a daily basis campus. The nearest regional train station is Lausanne. A number of buses also connects the École Polytechnique with the larger RER and TGV station Palaiseau. The campus is close to other great scientific institutions in Saclay, Orsay and Gien. The campus will be at the heart of the engineering and innovation sector of the Confederal University of Paris in Saclay. Major works are in progress to expand it and connect it to automatic metro line direct to Paris. Organization and administration. Specific status: Polytechnique is a higher education establishment running under the supervision of the French Ministry of Defense, through the General Directorate for Armament. It has always had a double status, being both an engineering school that formed civilian engineers and scientists, but also offices for the three armies. These two components being part of the same project of providing French state with a scientific and technical elite that could lead the country in a very 19th-century-like positivist vision of state. These two components, formation of civil servants and officers, have weakened after 1950, and nowadays only 10 to 20% of the school's students take place in the ranks of the administration of the army. However, the polytechnicians are still seen as the officers of the economic war, which justifies the military status. The school is the first in the order of precedence of all civil and military schools in France, and takes the first rank of the infantry parade of the Bastille Day, under the traditional uniform dating from 19th century. Though no longer a military academy, it is headed by a general officer and employs military personnel in executive, administrative and sport training positions. Both male and female French undergraduate polytechnicians are regular officers and have to go through a period of military training before the start of studies. However, the military aspects of the school have lessened with time, with a reduced period of preliminary military training, and fewer students pursuing careers as military officers after leaving the school. On special occasions, such as the military parade on the Champs-Élysées on Bastille Day, the polytechnicians wear the 19th-century-style hood uniform with the bicorne or cocked hat, but students have not typically worn a uniform on campus since the elimination of the internal uniform in the mid-1980s. The students also wear hood uniform in day use for special events on the campus, such as important conferences, formal events, or important lessons. Similarly to the use of academic dress in Cambridge or Oxford universities. Activities and teaching staff. Polytechnique has a combined undergraduate, graduate general engineering teaching curriculum as well as a graduate school. In addition to the faculty coming from its local laboratories, it employs many researchers and professors from other institutions, including other CNRS, INRIA and CEA laboratories, as well as the École Normale Supérieure and nearby institutions such as the École Supérieure d'Électricité, the Institut d'Optique, the Université Paris-Sud, creating a varied and high-level teaching environment. Contrary to French public universities, the teaching staff at Polytechnique are not civil servants but contract employees operating under regulations different from those governing university professors. An originality of Polytechnique is that in addition to full-time teaching staff who do research at the école in addition to a full teaching service, there are partial-time teaching staff who do not do research on behalf of the the école and carry only a partial teaching load. Part-time teaching staff are often recruited from research institutions operating inside the école campus, in the Paris region, or even sometimes elsewhere in France. Academic profile. The Polytechnician studies. The Polytechnician program is broader than typical French university studies, often including topics beyond one's specialty. This focus on breadth rather than depth has been hotly debated over the years, but it nevertheless forms a characteristic of the Polytechnician program. It is particularly useful for cross-fertilization purposes between different fields. His graduates from Polytechnique most often have abilities in several disciplines. For example, they must follow at least 6 different topics during the second year. Humanities and sports are also mandatory parts of the curriculum, adding to the differences with most French university programs. In addition to the 2,000 Polytechnic engineer students, the institution welcomes about 439 master students and 572 doctoral students, for a total enrollment of 2,900. Admission. The undergraduate admission to Polytechnique in the Polytechnician cycle is made through a selective entrance examination, and requires at least 2 years of preparation after high school in classes préparatoires. Admission includes a week of written examinations during the spring, followed by oral examinations that are handled in batches over the summer. About 400 French students are admitted each year. Foreign students who have followed a class préparatoire curriculum can also enter through the same competitive exam. Foreign students can also apply through a second track following undergraduate studies. In total, there are about 100 foreign students each year. Some foreign students come for a single year from other institutions in Europe and the United States. Curriculum. 4 years of study are required for the engineering degree, 1 year of military service and scientific common trunk, 1 year of multidisciplinary studies, and 1 year of specialized studies. With the X2000 reform, a 4th year of studies in another institution than Polytechnique was introduced. First year. The curriculum begins with 8 months of compulsory military service for students of French nationality. In the past, this service lasted 12 months and was compulsory for all French students. The suppression of the draft in France made this requirement of Polytechnique somewhat anachronistic, and the service was recast as a period of human and military formation. All the French students spend 1 month together in Le Courtine in a military training center. By the end of this month, they are assigned either to a civilian service or to the Army, Navy, Air Force or Gendarmerie. Students who are assigned to a military service complete a 2-month military training in French officer schools such as Saint-Cyr or École Navale. Finally, they are spread out over a wide range of units for a 5-month assignment to a French military unit, while French students stay under military status during the studies at Polytechnique, and participate in a variety of ceremonies and other military events, for example national ceremonies, such as those of Bastille Day or anniversaries of the armistices of the World Wars. They do not undergo military training per se after having completed the service in the first year. They receive at the end of the first year the full dress uniform, which comprises black trousers with a red stripe, a coat with brass buttons and a belt, a small sword and a cocked hat. Francophone foreign students do a civilian service. Civilian service can, for instance, consist of being an assistant in a high school in a disadvantaged French suburb. Then, a 4-month period begins in which all students take the same 5 courses: mathematics, applied mathematics, physics, computer science and economics. Second year. The second year is a year of multidisciplinary studies. The set of disciplines spans most areas of science and some areas in the humanities. Students have to choose 12 courses in at least 5 different disciplines. Third year. In the third year, students have to choose an in-depth program, which often focuses on a discipline or sometimes an interdisciplinary subject. This year is ended by a research internship. Fourth year. The fourth year is the beginning of more specialized studies. Students not entering a corps de l'état must join either a master's program, a doctorate program, another Paris Tech college or institute such as the École des Mines de Paris or ENSAE, or a specialization institute such as Super Aero in Toulouse or ENSPM in Rueil-Malmaison. The reason for this is that the generic education given at Polytechnique is more focused on developing thinking skills than preparing for the transition to an actual engineering occupation, which requires further technical education. Increasingly, students chose to spend the fourth year studying in a foreign university. About a quarter of third-year students chose this path in 2008. American universities are a favorite, but the École Polytechnique has agreements with universities in a large set of countries. Class rank and career path. Grades of the second year of the curriculum are used to rank the students. Traditionally, this individual exit ranking had a very high importance for French students in École Polytechnique, and some peculiarities of the organizations of studies and grading can be traced to the need for a fair playing ground between students. For French nationals, this ranking is actually part of a government recruitment program. A certain number of seats in civil or military corps, including elite civil servant corps such as the Corps des Mines or Corps of Bridges, Waters and Forests, are open to the student body each year. These specific civil servant corps that provide the top managers of public administration are only open to Polytechnique students. At some point during the course of study, students specify a list of corps that they would like to enter in order of preference, and they are enrolled into the highest one according to the ranking. The next stepping stone for these French graduates in Polytechnique, or polytechnicians, on this path is to enter one of 4 technical civil service training schools: the École des Mines, the École des Ponts et Chaussées, the TECUT-LEOCUT-COM Paris Tech, or the ENSAE, thus joining one of the civil service bodies known as the Grand Corps Techniques de l'État. Those who pursue this path are known as ex-mines, ex-ponts, ex-DECOMs and ex-INSEE, respectively, with the ex prefix for Polytechnique, identifying them as particularly qualified elite members of corps among all graduates of Polytechnique. Since the X-2000 reform, the importance of the ranking has lessened, except for the core curricula. Universities and schools where the polytechnicians complete their educations now base their acceptance decisions on transcripts of all grades, tuition and financial obligations. For French nationals, tuition is free as long as the full curriculum is completed, and a salary is received throughout the school years at the level of a reserve officer in training. French students, through the student board, redistribute some of the salary to foreign students, most of whom also benefit from grants. There is no particular financial obligation for students following the curriculum, and then entering an application school or graduate program that Polytechnique approves of. However, French students who choose to enter a civilian or military corps after Polytechnique are expected to complete 10 years of public service following their admission to the school. If a a student enters a corps but does not fulfill those 10 years of public service, the tuition fees are due to the school. Sometimes, when an alumnus quits a corps to join a private company, that company will pay for the tuition fees, which are then called the pantofle. The master's program. École Polytechnique organizes various master's programs by itself or in association with other schools and universities. Other member institutions of Paris.Tech, Toulouse area and foreign partner universities on a wide variety of topics. Previous polytechnician undergraduates make up about 1/2 of the students. The following master's programs are offered: Applied Mathematics, Chemistry, Complex Information Systems, Computer Science, Economics, Electrical Engineering, Mathematics, Mechanics, Molecular and Cellular Biology, Physics and Applications, Sciences, Technologies, Society. Polytechnique also takes part in 2 degrees awarded by Paris.Tech: Nuclear Energy, Transportation and Sustainable Development. Master Paris.Tech Foundation Renault. About 50% of highly qualified master's students come from abroad. Most master courses are taught in English. The doctoral program. The school also has a doctoral program open to students with a master's degree or equivalent. Doctoral students generally work in the laboratories of the school. They may also work in external institutes or establishments that cannot, or will not, grant doctorates. About 35% of doctoral students come from abroad. Research centers. Polytechnique has many research laboratories operating in various scientific fields, most operated in association with national scientific institutions such as CNRS, CEA, or also in RIA. People. Student life. Students are represented by a board of 15 students, otherwise called KES, elected in December by promoting each newly arrived on campus. KES manages the relationships with teachers, management, alumni and partners. Paris.Tech. It publishes the weekly Students' Infobooks and animates the life of promotions during the year. Students benefit from a great freedom of initiative to initiate cultural, artistic, social or sporting associations. Over 100 students, called BINETs. Campus life is very rich and punctuated, and cultural events, performances, lectures, exhibitions and events of all kinds. These student demonstrations are usually held in the evening and are open to the public. The fact that all students receive a mensual salary makes the student life particularly rich, since everyone can easily find funds to create an event. The AMAX, Association of Master's Students of the École Polytechnique, XDOC, brings together students from the graduate school of the École Polytechnique. An annual gala is organized since the 19th century in Paris Opera in April, the Bal d'X, where students go in 19th century uniforms and dresses. It is one of the major events of Paris social life and is regularly visited by high-level officials such as Defense Minister, CEOs of the French President, who traditionally offers the annual first prize of the tombola. Sports are a large part of the life, as it is required for all students to do 6 hours of sport a week. There are competitive sports and club sports ranging from parachuting and judo to circus or hiking. There are 2 swimming pools, dojo and fencing rooms, and even an equestrian center on campus. The Jumping d'X is an international jumping competition hosted by the school. Notable alumni and academics. Many Polytechnique graduates occupy prominent positions in government, industry, and research in France. Among its alumni are 3 Nobel Prizes winners, 3 presidents of France, and several leaders in business and industries. Researchers at the French National Center for Scientific Research have found that most business business executives in France have traditionally been alumni of the École Polytechnique. International rankings. In international rankings, Polytechnique is often placed among the best universities of the world. The academic ranking of world universities, also known as the Shanghai Rankings, places Polytechnique in 2010 at 201 to 300 worldwide, and 8 to 13 in France. In 2015 Times Higher Education Small Universities Rankings, École Polytechnique is ranked third, after Caltech and École Normale Supérieure of Paris. But the QS World University Rankings and its successor QS World University Rankings have placed Polytechnique in 36th position in the 2011 rankings, second among French institutions, behind École Normale Supérieure. The Polytechnique was also ranked in the 39th position in the Times Higher Education World University Rankings in 2011. The Mines Paristic Professional Ranking World Universities, which looks at the education of the Fortune 500 CEOs, ranks Polytechnique 7th in the world in its 2011 ranking, second among French institutions behind HEC Paris. Polytechnique is known for its extremely competitive entrance exam. It is one of the most selective French engineering schools. Bibliography. Clark, Burton R. The Research Foundations of Graduate Education, Germany, Britain, France, United States, Japan. University of California Press. p. 412. ISBN 9780520079977. Gillespie, Charles C. Science and Polity in France, the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Years. Princeton University TV Press. ISBN 9780691115412. Grattan Guinness Ivor. The École Polytechnique, 1794–1850. Differences over educational purpose and teaching practice. The American Mathematical Monthly. 112, published by Mathematical Association of America, pp. 233–250. JSDOR 30,037,440.